When I was a little girl, I was full of wonder, and I was full of natural curiosity, and I wanted to learn everything about the world, and wanted to learn it all at once. I asked a dozen questions a minute, drove my parents crazy. And who knows a kid like that? How many of you have a kid like that? Who of you were a kid like that? Then you know what I'm talking about. And the favorite question? Why? Of course, natural curiosity. And then school happened. And as you can see, it was a very typical public school in a small town in Poland, with rows of desks standing, and kids sitting in those desks, and memorizing facts. And the teacher standing in front of the students, lecturing, and often saying, "Don't move, don't speak until you're spoken to. Oh, you'll get your chance to shine. You will come to the front of the class and you'll show us what you've memorized." This is me. Not a happy camper, as you can see, because all day I heard, "Don't ask questions." And my reaction was, why? But it wasn't all that bad. I loved ice skating. Ice skating was the PE class during the wintertime on the local rink. And during the spring and the fall semester, those classes turned into gymnastics classes to build stamina and grace for ice skating. And I must have been about 9 or 10 when I came to my gym class with my ice skating buddies, and a new teacher was standing there, and she looked me up and down and remarked quite loudly, "Oh my gosh, you have such fat knees. You're never going to amount to anything." I was floored. Never amount to anything. I did what any kid would have done at that time. I ran home crying and swore off both gymnastics and ice skating for life. My dreams were shattered because I had my usual dreams, you know, the childhood dreams of becoming a ballerina or an ice skater or an actress or a singer or a teacher, when my upstairs neighbor taught me to read when I was 4, just because she could. But now, I was fat knees. Never gonna amount to anything. A few years later, after that fat knee incident, I was sitting in a different gym class, and Olga Korbut was performing. It was a gym class on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, in a warehouse turned into a school on, I think it was 54th Street in Manhattan, the United Nations International School. The 1972 Olympics had just taken place, and I don't remember what the reasons were, but the athletes were asked to perform in our school. And Olga Korbut was amazing. I sat mesmerized, watching her perform. And my PE teacher, noticing the spark in my eye, came up to me and said, "You could be like Olga Korbut too, you know." Me, I have fat knees. I'm never going to amount to anything. But all she said was, "Well, that shouldn't stop you from trying." Well, that was new. And in my English class, I was asked to interpret a poem. And I very quickly said, "Poetry? Poetry? I'm hopeless at poetry. I don't know what the right answer is. I'll never amount to anything." You can see the pattern here. That phrase stuck in my mind, because in my previous school system, that's what I heard most of the time in one way or another. "You don't know this math equation? It's so simple. You don't know this chemistry formula? It's so simple. You don't know what the author wanted to say in this story. There's only one answer, of course." I don't. I can't. I know I'll never amount to anything. So when my PE teacher at the UN school said that I could be like Olga Korbut, And my English teacher actually liked my interpretation of the poem, even though it wasn't perfect. That's when I realized that what I had been taught before wasn't what I should have been taught. What I should have been taught was a love for learning, a love for trying to improve and exploring and wanting to do better and better, and that grit and that perseverance to keep going and to keep trying, even when the going got tough. That, of course, as we know now, is the growth mindset concept, but it was the 1970s. I had no clue. I was just a kid. And what I didn't really realize at that time, I think, was that how lucky I was to be in that school system at that time. In a class full of multiple nationalities, and the teachers teaching not just the concepts, but also skills. And I even wrote them down. They taught us to work well in a group and to keep asking questions. And I was amazed. Questions? They want me to ask questions. Work together and respect each other and value each other's opinion. And I was amazed. An opinion. I can have an opinion. Keep trying to improve. Just keep trying to do better and be better. It was insane. And I fell in love with that insanity. Just look at that smile. They gave us wings. At that UN school back in the 1970s, I fell in love with the love of learning, the love of trying to improve all the time, the concept of that constant striving to improve, to do better and to be better. Sadly, I had to return to my previous school system for the rest of my school years. But a decade later, I found another school on the other side of the planet, in Jakarta, Indonesia, where I could practice this constant love of learning and trying and improving and teach it to the kids too. And naturally, I fell in love with the school too. I never became a ballerina or a singer or an actress, even though I tried a couple of times. My fat knees weighed me down. And they weighed me down in so many other ways too. The thought that I was never going to amount to anything kept reverberating in my brain and made me feel inferior to others for decades and made me feel constantly judged by others. And it took a long time and a lot of effort to eradicate that thought. And why am I telling you this? Because that fat knee incident happened 50 years ago. And in so many schools, so many countries around the world, kids still sit in rows of desks. And they still memorize facts. And teachers still stand in front of the class lecturing. And kids fear coming to school every day because they might just be called to the front of the class and asked to recite that poem that they fully didn't memorize yet, or solve that one math problem that they really didn't get for homework. And in many schools, you only get one chance. And isn't it true that if you do excel at that, you're labeled smart? And if you don't, if you mess up at any point of that performance or that presentation, you're labeled something else. And you may be smart or not so smart many times during the day. And the one thing that you often learn was your abilities are fixed. You're smart or not. Or that you might not learn at all. And sometimes you might think, what's the point? I'm never going to learn. I'm never going to amount to anything. But it doesn't have to be this way anymore. It's the 21st century, and we need a change. Who's up for change? Say yes. Yes. We can learn from Professor Carol Dweck and her studies on mindsets that kids can learn, all kids can learn, with effort and systematic training. And that they can learn when they are given frequent and positive and constructive feedback, and when they are not judged for what they are, but for how they keep on improving. And we can learn from Angela Duckworth, who talks about grit and building grit in kids through the growth mindset, which leads to success. And building that grit goes through so many minds, because when kids learn that failure is not a permanent condition, that's when they believe that they can learn and keep on learning. And we can certainly learn from Dr. Harris and the lifelong effects of stress on kids that kids endure every day at school. The fear of judgment and the fear of bad grades, the fear of ridicule and the fear of bullying. And that this remark that somebody makes at school today affects them for a lifetime. And they need wings, not fat knees. As you know, I'm passionate about lifelong learning. And I fell in love with this school because I could help the students learn what I learned from the UN school in New York. And as a teacher, you often think, did they really learn what I really wanted them to learn? Or was it just English skills, an English teacher? And so recently, I asked the students that I have on Facebook. And over the 36 years, I must have interacted with maybe 3,000 students, international students. And I asked some of them, what do you remember after decades have gone by, and some of my students are in their 50s? And this is what they said. They remember being taught with passion, having their confidence boosted, being encouraged to think critically, having no limits set on their capabilities, having their needs met, and getting motivated to be better than they were before. I am glad that their learning experience was very different than mine as a child. No fat knees on my watch. So here's some suggestions for coaches, teachers, educators. Don't cut a kid at the knees. Give them wings instead. Teachers, let's encourage our students to build a growth mindset. And let's change our language to, you don't know this yet, but I'm here to help you learn. And let's change our students' language to, I haven't mastered this yet, but with effort and perseverance and the support that you can give me, I can become better at this. And parents, praise your children for the effort that they make to improve. Tell them, I see that you have improved because you have worked hard. And tell them that they can keep on improving and learning with a growth mindset. And if you have to measure something, measure that growth and not the perfection. As you can see, I am passionate about lifelong learning. And even though I have to say goodbye to the school that I've been at for 36 years, I'm excited to be reinventing myself as an online educator. Ooh, so much to learn. Technology, marketing, advertising. It's a whole new gymnastics routine, and I've got to practice it a lot. But I know this time that with the support of people who believe in me, and the hard work and the perseverance that I know I will invest, I can become better at this. Who knows? I might even become Olga Korbut of online education. How is that? Who thinks that's possible? Say yes. So my final remark to all of the learners out there, learners, and we're all learners of something. Somebody told you you've got fat knees, and that's stopping you from trying. Ignore that remark. You can learn, and can improve, and can be better at this and feel good about it. Get a bunch of supporters to support you and who believe in you. Change that mindset to a growth mindset. Who's ready for that? Say yes. Yeah. So spread your wings of growth and go flying high. Thank you.